Hello there. Welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and I bet you thought I forgot. There's no way. There's no way that I forgot about our adorable gnomes for spring. So we've created 3 layouts in this series. This one here with a little bit of stenciling and dot stenciling in the background, ink rubbing in the background, and the cute little gnomes. This one with some stamp pad splatter and painting, adding a little water to spritz in the stamp pad to create the water splash from the little gnome watering the plants with her water can and getting on her friend. Then we created this fun one with the white picket fence and the little peeking gnomes with just some general cricket flowers and the gnomes for spring thin cut. Really adorable. Things got crazy and it's been a little longer than I wanted between layouts, but we're going to finish this series. This is what I have left for paper. So I have the busy gnome and spring paper. I have this swirly word and stripe paper, a tiny bit of the crisscross yellow and green with the cloud paper in the back. I have some zip strips left, as well as some stickers from the sticker sheet, some long, thin stickers. Now our junk gypsy tray still has lots of spring gnomes in them that we created with the Gnomes for Spring standalone thin cut. We have some cricket flowers left, cricket boots left, which I'm definitely going to use on this page. We have quite a few stickers left. So we have some stickers from the sticker sheet, title stickers, circle stickers, banner stickers. This is from the Stamp and Thin Cut set, Gnomes for Spring Stamp and Thin Cut set, where we did some tri-blend color markering on that. Again, I'll link in the description videos 1 through 3. And the first video goes into great detail on how we created all the bits for the tray. And so I definitely want to use the boots and the flowers here, but I am going to back the boots with white daisy. I just think that they need to be backed with white daisy, especially when I narrow down my background. Now, originally, I think I'm going to use 2 vertical 4x6s, a 4x4, and a horizontal 3x4 with an 1/8 inch photo mat around it in honey butter. I do change my mind on the photo sizes a little bit, and I'll talk about that here in a bit, but we have limeade 10 3/4 by 10 3/4, and then a white daisy front, 10 1/2 by 10 1/2. I have lots of 10-inch strips here. So 1 1/4 strip, 1 inch strip, 1 inch strips, 3/4 inch strips times 3 sets, and then 1/2 inch strip times 3 sets there. And I'm going to use 1 of each strip on each of the pages. So again, 2 that are 1 1/4 by 10, 1, 2 that are 4 total that are 1 by 10, 4 total that are 3/4 by 10, and then 6 total that are 1/2 by 10. And we're going to split those apart here and then see how it goes. Now, originally, I think that maybe I won't use the flower pot zip strip that is 1/2 by 10 because it's actually one that looks better horizontally. I do end up using it vertically, and I don't mind, but I'm just kind of trying to arrange the strips here. So the focus of this video is really a basic background with a few focal large elements when less is more. So sometimes I can go a little over the top and get crazier and crazier and add more and add more. And this is actually a case where less is more, and I love the large icons, and I just don't feel like we need more than that. So I could go crazy with treatments. I do a tiny bit of inking in the background on this one, a little bit of a gel pen technique, but not much at all because I just felt like it was enough. Like I loved everything about it just the way it was. So I'm basically just arranging the strips, and I arrange the strips on the left to where I'm happy. And I'm just adjusting like light side, dark side, just to my pleasing, whatever pleases you. And then I've actually taken the strips and reversed them on the right page. And I'm just trying to make sure that my spacing is about right, about 2 inches on either side. It doesn't quite come out perfect when I get all the strips. There's a tiny little bit more space on the right side, but it doesn't bother me a bit. You could adjust it if you were doing it, but I actually start my first strip here at the 2-inch mark. So if you're doing this after me, you could probably go 2 1/4, maybe as far as 2 1/2, and center those a little bit more than I did. I'm just using my T ruler to keep it straight, and then once I have the first piece straight and flush, then I can add all of the rest of the strips. Now I want about 1/4 of an inch at the top, and I didn't quite get 1/4 of an inch, so you see me manhandling my strip here, but don't worry, it goes right back on. I could have used a little tiny bit of undo instead of tearing that up, but it did work out okay. So now that I have some adhesive put on that, I'm going to go back with my T ruler, put it at the 2-inch mark, go down a little bit over 1/4 of an inch, about 1/4 of an inch down, and then here we are just getting that first one straight. And once that first one's straight, we're going to put all the strips flush across the page. And then we're going to have a super simple background. Basically, we're going to have these strips and we're going to add a few dovetailed banners horizontally. And then we're going to add the photos. And we're going to concentrate after that on some larger elements. And once I get those larger elements in place, I feel like less is more. So if you haven't been following along with the Gnomes for Spring series, or too much time went by and you actually forgot about the series, we are doing 5 layouts total. This is number 4, and so it's 8 pages so far. There'll be one more video after this one, and then there will be a cheat sheet option. So you'll be able to just pull out your Gnomes for Spring. I know so many paper crafters were able to get the Gnomes for Spring bundle before Close to My Heart closed. And you'll be able to get that bundle, pull out that bundle and put together all 10 pages with that bundle and some extra cardstock and a few little extra techniques that I've added in there. And the full supply list is in the click more, the more button, and then it's in the description under there. So you'll see the supply list under there. And then if you want a little extra help, you can just follow right along with my videos. I'm good about giving all the measurements and trying to give a lot of detail so you can follow along. But if you want a little extra support and a little extra help, after we finish the last video in this series, there will be a cheat sheet option available, and you will have a link in the description of that last video that tells how to get a hold of that cheat sheet, and it usually just directs you to my blog, and then you can click on that option to get the cheat sheet. Now I get the strips in place, and I do feel like I need even more than the flower pot zip strips. So I go ahead and I add a honey butter 3/4 by 10-inch strip on both pages and the 1/2 by 10-inch flower pot zip strip. And then I feel like it evens it out just a little bit better. It's still a little less space on the left than on the right. And like I said, you could adjust that if you're coming in behind me. Mine are in place and I'm okay with it. We're going to cover up a lot of those strips and do some embellishing over the top. So my original plan is to do a vertical 4x6 on the left page, and then I decide it's not large enough, that I can use a 5x7 photo. So I do go ahead and create 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 glacier piece, 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 glacier piece, 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 glacier piece to mount the photos. Again, those photos were already mounted on 1/8 inch photo mats. So they were 4 1/8 by 6 1/8, 4 1/8 by 4 1/8, 3 1/8 by 4 1/8, and then we end up not using the left side 4x6. We're going to replace that with a 5x7, so I'll talk about those measurements in a bit. But I've taken the striped pieces, they are 2 1/2 by 3 1/2, and I've just shown how I've folded that a little bit and cut on a diagonal to create a super simple dovetailed piece. And I've just kind of gently folded it so it doesn't get a heavy crease in it. And then I cut it on a diagonal to make the banners going across. So I don't have enough paper left to be able to make that a full piece all the way across, and I don't have enough to do that on the left side either. So that's why I'm doing 4 2.5 by 3.5 pieces. And so here's where I decide I have plenty of room for more photos or for a larger photo. So I'm actually going to use a horizontal 5 by 7. So I will follow suit with the honey butter, and I will have a 5 1/8 by 7 1/8 photo mat. And then under that, I'm going to go a little bit bigger, and I'm going to have a 5.5 by 7.5 inch glacier piece underneath that. And then I'm putting the dovetailed pieces about 3.5 inches down. And then I just want to make sure that the dovetailed piece is over the edge of the limeade base, just so that doesn't like stick right in the middle of that dovetail. And so once I have those in place, I'm going to pop up the entire 5.5 by 7.5 inch glacier photo mat and photo piece here, and have that pop up on those dovetailed banners, and I'm loving that. Already I feel like this is enough. So again, with all of the multi-patterns in the background and the large photo elements, we've got larger photos on the left and larger photos on the right. Oftentimes I'll use a lot of smaller photos like 3 by 3s, 3 by 4s, but we have the 4 by 4, the 4 by 6, and a 3 by 3 over there. And with the large 5 by 7, I don't feel like we're going to need near as many decorative elements as we normally do. And this is when I concede to say less is more, because I know those boots, the cricket boots, are going to be quite large. And then of course we're going to add a thin cut gnome from the Gnomes for Spring standalone thin cuts. And those two pieces alone are quite large. So I'm just arranging the photos so that on the right page they actually overlap over the strips, and on the left page they're a little bit under the strips. So now I'm going to pull out my gnomes. I still have tons to choose from. As you know, I like to make lots of bits at the forefront of my workshops so that I have plenty to work with and I don't have to stop what I'm doing and create more pieces. Sometimes I have leftover bits, and a lot of times I actually don't. So we'll see how it goes when I get to the layout, the last layout in the series. We'll see how it goes, and I'm loving the idea of overlapping the boots onto the photo. So you're going to have to pay attention to the type of photo you have. So if your subject is more toward the left on the vertical 4 by 6, more toward the right on the 4 by 4, and then you could actually use a 3 by 3 on the 3 by 4 if you wanted, or you could use a horizontal 3 by 4 where the subject is more toward the right of the photo. So now I'm playing around with all my different gnome combinations, and there's quite a few combinations that would work. I do like the pop of the flamingo. I like the crisscross. It's just kind of hard to decide. I didn't know for sure if I was going to want to go with the striped umbrella and the striped dress with the striped dovetailed pieces in the back, but I actually end up liking that. I think that the flamingo hat breaks up the two striped patterns. It puts them away from each other a little bit more. I really, really like the ballerina one. It's hard to decide, but I do end up landing on the striped rainbow with the striped dress and the flamingo hat. Now deciding on the title, I do love the wavy long title, but it kind of does blend into the background because I have so much green and blue. I definitely want to use "You Are My Happy." I think that might be a really cute little sentiment over on the boots. I love, love, love "Bless Your Heart," especially because it draws in the flamingo. We'll have a little bit of flamingo over on the right in the boots and in the flowers that are in the boots. We'll have flamingo over here on the left with the hat, but I think it's off balance, and I think we really maybe need to put "Bless Your Heart" up to the top. And then we have a little bit of a triangle with the flamingo, and it creates a little bit of a color balance. I'm trying to struggle here because I keep thinking I want it at the bottom, but I know even by watching the video that it definitely needs to go up to the top to create a visual triangle. And I'm looking at some of the other bits that are left over. We have some banners, we have a little yellow tab, we have some circles and some ovals, we have some hearts, lots of little bits left over. We definitely have plenty of little acrylic shapes left. And so it's kind of hard to decide here where I want it. And I finally figure out that we need the color balance with the pop lower left, upper right, and then down below to the middle again. So I'm just shopping my stash here in my junk gypsy tray and just looking through everything to see what all kinds of bits that I have and that I want to use on this layout. While I'm looking through the junk gypsy tray, I'm like, wow, that's a lot already. We've got multicolor stripes in the background. We have striped banners on the side. We have the enormous, cute boots over there. We have our large gnome. And then we have our little title up at the upper right. It's quite a bit. I really am feeling comfortable with the less is more concept. A few little stickers, maybe some of our stamped and thin cut butterflies, I think would be a nice added element. Maybe coming up off to the left, kind of trying to find a few places for them here on the right. Maybe in the flower cluster, that would add a really cute element to have the butterfly in the floral cluster on the boots, just kind of experimenting with what color, and I'm actually getting happy. It seems a little premature to be getting happy. I think maybe I will do a little bit of light pink inking in the background with the blending brush, maybe underneath the butterflies, maybe a little bit down on the lower right of the boots, just a touch. But honestly, this is totally me saying less is more. It's not that often that I do that, but I do sometimes feel things when they're just right. And I feel like I have just the right amount of elements, and going any farther would be too many. I think some acrylic shapes to decorate and embellish a little bit, maybe adding the blending brush. And I'm definitely, brushing off a little bit because I just want a little bit of light pink. I don't have anything that I really want to put down here in this corner, so I will probably add some little acrylic shapes. We have the acrylic shapes that came right in the Spring Gnomes or Gnomes for Spring bundle. So we had some flowers and some little butterflies. I decided to go ahead and add a little gel pen technique here, just adding some dashed lines to the limeade cardstock piece here on the left page and on the right page. And I think I'm doing this more for feeling like I should be teaching something or that I should be doing something. And it is a nice little added element, but so unnecessary because, again, I feel like less is more. We have large Cricut elements, we have a visual triangle, we have color balance, we have tons of color in the background, we have large focal photo elements with large photos, and I think I'm happy. So I'm going to add a few of those acrylic shapes, like I said, a few little tiny butterflies around the larger stamped and thin cut butterflies, and then you have a more dynamic set of textures. So you have some stamped items, some colored items with tri-blend markers, you have some acrylic shapes, you have a little ink blending, we have thin cutting with the gnomes, we have a few Cricut cuts in there, we have some dimension from foam tape on the large photos and on the boots and the flowers, and I have a little dot here that I do want to add just to be consistent, because we added dots to the flower on the gnome hats in all 3 previous layouts, so I want to be consistent with this layout in the series and add a little dot on her hat. And looking around and saying to myself, I could add some little journaling lines under the butterflies to make some little trails. I decide not to. I just decide it's perfect the way that it is. I'm very happy, and I'm loving this 4th layout in the Gnomes for Spring series. And I know that we've drug it out a little bit, but we're getting so close. One more layout in the Gnomes for Spring series. We'll have a little cheat sheet at the end, and then everyone will be happy. I know everybody's excited, and as excited as I am about finishing up the Gnomes for Spring. I hope you love it. Thanks so much for hanging with me. Hit subscribe, like the notifications bell, and you'll be ready for layout number 4 in Gnomes for Spring right here on Snips by Kelly.